I just have a lot of bodily issues that I'm trying to figure out. So this was step one. So I do believe that I used a real piercing needle on my septum, and I would wake up and clear crust off my nose and off my septum ring every single day. Thought it was normal. On top of the like decay smell, like it literally smelled like a dead
It could smell like a dead animal.
And it's just like a horseshoe, and I can fit a whole finger in it. At that time, God only knows what I was taking. My God, there was even a few times where we crushed up the Xanax and smoked it in a blunt. But on a few occasions, I did crush it up and snort it. I do have to live with a hole in my nose for the rest of my life because of a septum ring and just my own poor life decision. Go to a professional piercer, check their ratings. Don't do it yourself. Don't use a sewing needle. Don't use a piercing kit off Amazon. Oh my God, it's starting to thunder really loud. There's just great vibes right now. I just feel emotional because I'm just feeling the most like peace and just getting the best vibes right now. It is May 7th of 2024. Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm still recovering from being sick, so my voice might sound very raspy and kind of deeper than normal. Now that I have my house almost all the way unpacked, I wanted to make a sit-down video. Obviously while my child is sleeping. I don't ever get another time to do this in daylight. This is a video I've been wanting to make for a while. I've talked about it in some of my videos before, like regarding my nose pain, just my septum ring, and I don't want to advise you not to get a septum ring because like you only have a certain amount of time to live. If you want a septum ring, go get a septum ring. But I do want to warn you about all the risks that are associated with getting a septum ring, specifically like long term. Like for me, I had no idea that nasal septal perforation, NSP, was even a thing, or that could happen from getting a septum ring. I'm sure that if I would have went to a professional piercer, they would have warned me about some of the risks of infection, just like long-term issues that you could get from having a septum ring.
But
I did it myself, so I didn't warn myself or do any of the proper research. NSP can also be caused by autoimmune problems, like underlying autoimmune problems that eat away at cartilage, specifically NSP, nasal septal perforation, and drug use can cause it, along with other things. If you're wondering what NSP is, like I was, even though before I even went to an ENT, I researched, found out what I had, told them what I had, came in, got diagnosed with it. It's pretty much how I always am with my health problems. I'm very, very in tune with my own body and what specifically is wrong with my body. Like I'm very good at figuring that out because doctors have ignored me and are still currently ignoring me as I go for a search for whatever is wrong with me. And autoimmune, my lymph nodes have been swollen for a long time. I just have a lot of bodily issues that I'm trying to figure out. So this was step one in the longer process and to the bigger issue that is going on, which I think I know what caused my NSP, but this is what NSP is. Septal perforation is a hole in the septum that creates a communication between the right and left nasal cavities. Perforation can occur due to complications in surgery, aggressive cautery for recurrent nosebleeds, nasal trauma, fracture, infection, or from certain autoimmune diseases. Okay, so now that we have that out of the way, let me turn this off. Okay, so now that we have that out of the way, I want to first tell you about when I did my septum ring and like how long I had it and things. When I first realized that there was a hole in my septum and the like, I guess signs or symptoms that I had. So I first wanted my septum pierced when I was like 14 years old. My mom said absolutely not. But my brother got me a tattoo gun. I started tattooing myself and she kind of just stopped caring. So I eventually went and typed piercing needles and jewelry, like into Amazon, ordered kits, started doing so many piercings on my ears. And I do think that I used a real piercing needle. I do think I used a real piercing needle on my septum. Prior, I had used sewing needles and or just shoving the jewelry through my ear. So I do believe that I used a real piercing needle on my septum. And I did that when I had just turned 16. I think I was in like junior year or something of high school. I honestly cannot remember now. And I had my septum ring in until I was, I think, 19. I took it out like a month or two after I gave birth to my son Oswald. So I had it for approximately like 3 years, long story short. And I first noticed the hole when I was pregnant. Well, first I noticed a really bad stench coming from my nose, and then like I had always heard people say like that their piercings would stink, or like ear cheese, or like nose cheese or something, like their piercings would smell. And specifically with, you know, septum piercings, because it's inside of your nose, you smell that all the time, and if you move it, you can smell like a bad odor. So I thought it was just that until I was feeling around, and when I would move my septum ring, it would go in far. It would go into my septum kind of far, and it would hurt. Like it would be like an excruciatingly painful, shocking feeling like through my entire septum. And I did not think that that was normal. It was like the beginning of my pregnancy, and I would wake up and clear crust off my nose and off my septum ring every single day. Thought it was normal. Now I can look back and be like what the fuck? It's a 3 years healed piercing. There should not still be crust forming every day that you have to take off every single morning. Sometimes it would be like bloody crust. Kind of was just like, I thought it was, I mean, I might have just thought it was like boogers, but it was like a film, and it would be really dry and hard, and it would have blood in it sometimes. So on top of the like decay smell, like it literally smelled like a dead
It could smell like a dead animal
inside of my nose. And I had like, oh my god, I don't know how I was just like living like that and being like, yeah, this is fine. I want this septum ring bad enough to deal with this every single day. So I eventually, during my pregnancy, felt the hole and found it when I was either 18 or, yeah, I was like 18. I got pregnant when I was 18, and I gave birth full term. I gave birth full term like 3 months after I turned 19. Somewhere around there I found the hole, and I've kind of just ignored it ever since. I thought that it was just because of my septum ring. So I took it out a few months after I gave birth to my son, and just kind of ignored that it was there for a long time. I let my septum ring heal. It healed just fine. There's still, like, you can see the crevice where my septum ring used to be, but I don't really have any complications from that. It was the septum ring itself. So now let me tell you about, so after ignoring and having anxiety every single day about why I had a hole in my nose, and there are so many videos up on my channel of me explaining my mental health, my anxiety around doctors, because I have been ignored and mistreated by doctors before. So when you already have anxiety and then you have medical professionals make you feel so minimal and completely invalidate you, and I'm an advocate for myself now, I push for myself now, but when I was a teenager and like even up to a year ago, when I had that last terrible experience with psychiatrists happen and I finally filed a report, I'm done with, I just got so fed up with being treated like that by doctors. I was obviously scared to go to the doctor and just have them ignore it. Basically, I thought they were just going to ignore that there was a hole in my septum. And let me tell you, when I took my septum ring out and it healed, like the hole where my septum ring was healed, I felt, and I can fit a finger like in the hole, but it is at the very tip of that, of my septum, and it's just like a horseshoe, and I can fit a whole finger in it, but the skin is healed over it. So it's not like an actual hole where I can put my whole finger through. It's just a hole in the cartilage, and then the skin is over it on both sides, to explain that a little bit. And I thought they were just going to completely ignore that. If that happens to you, advocate for yourself, find a new doctor, and if they do that, like, report doctors, because they cannot just ignore you when you have a medical issue. But I was young, I was scared, I had no guidance. I'm still young, I'm still learning, I'm still growing, but yeah, when I finally went after that awful psychiatrist experience back in November 2023, so I was 20 years old. I am now 21, and I have learned so much more since then, and I have still yet to learn so much. I have so much more to learn and experience. After that awful psychiatrist appointment, I finally just went to a primary care doctor who was actually a nurse practitioner, but she did more for me than any doctor has in a very long time. And she referred me to an OBGYN, she referred me to an ENT, she referred me to a new psychiatrist, which I still am just taking it into my own hands for now and doing DPT at home and learning and just growing by myself. But I finally scheduled that ENT appointment. They never called me from the referral, but obviously the referral gets sent in, so if they don't call you, you just call them. I am an adult, that is on me. So I called in and made an appointment. I think it was like right before my 21st birthday or a few days after. And I was so terrified. I was scared that they were gonna say that I was gonna start getting saddle nose, because I thought it was continuing to decay. I thought my nose was continuing to sink in, so I thought that I was gonna start getting saddle nose when the tip of your nose weakens and it starts to sink in, creating like a saddle effect. Terrified of that. My biggest fear. I have never had a nose surgery or like a nose job or anything like that. I have never had plastic surgery. I'm too poor. I can't afford anything like that. So I guess before I explain the doctor's appointment, I should talk about kind of how this actually happened. Now knowing what I know now about NSP and what caused mine, I did it to myself. I don't believe it's from some type of autoimmune disease, but that's an ongoing battle that I'm still fighting. My mom has a bunch of autoimmune problems, and I am in severe pain every single day. My knees shift all the time. They used to pop out of place. I can completely rotate my shoulders and like all of my joints around. Oh my God. Let me not catch my house on fire. These are actually lit. These are real candles. But it's just an ongoing battle. So let me tell you, after my appointment, like what I believe happened to cause my NSP hole in my septum. So basically, I did that septum piercing at home by myself. I don't think I recorded that one because I was so nervous. I know, obviously, not to go through the cartilage. I didn't. I went through the sweet spot, but I barely have a sweet spot. Pretty small, like upturned nose. So I barely have any room in there to fit a septum ring in. Sorry, the dog is walking around. He makes so much noise because he weighs more than me. But, so basically, I pierced the sweet spot, but I think I pierced it too close to my septum, the cartilage, and it was always touching it. And my septum ring would hurt so bad if I moved it or anything, but it healed fine. It crusted up for like 2 weeks and then it healed just fine. But I pierced that septum ring when I was 16. So that was in the middle of my like addictions. I, at that time, God only knows what I was taking. A lot of pills, Adderall, acid, a lot of things. And then when I was 17, I moved out right after I turned 17 in with my current child of my father. And for 6 months, from like 17 and a half to 3 days after I turned 18, when I was in the ICU for 3 days, I was battling a Xanax addiction. It was street Xanax though, so it was obviously laced with fentanyl. And I didn't regularly snort the Xanax. Usually I would just put like a pill or two in my mouth and I would chew them up and swallow them with like water or whatever I had, alcohol, anything. I am now over 3 years sober, so I can talk about this with a smile on my face because it's like,
Just, where were my parents?
my God, there was even a few times where we crushed up the Xanax and smoked it in a blunt. But on a few occasions, I did crush it up and snort it. And I know that only because I was blacked out for that entire 6 months. I still to this day cannot remember that entire 6 months. I can remember a little bit of flashbacks, but in the night that I almost died, flashbacks again. But largely, I literally cannot remember anything. And the only reason that I know I was snorting it is because I have like 2 videos in my Snapchat memories of me snorting Xanax, along with a bunch of other things, me putting a rifle in my mouth. There's just horrible dark shit on there that I have recovered from by myself because therapists and psychiatrists have not helped me. I have helped myself and grown as a person by myself. But with a septum ring in my nose, I was snorting drugs, taking drugs. I was like 94 pounds or whatever, 92, 94 pounds, and I'm 5'7". So I was extremely underweight. My knees were popping out of place. I was so unhealthy. I was getting like infections on my face. Like they looked like infected pimples. And then I got bed sores on my butt from literally not moving. I had to put antibiotic cream on them and like move to get them to go away. And I did go to an urgent care and get them tested. And I have been tested before to make sure, because I did used to share like tattoo needles with other girls my age. So I really wasn't scared about any type of disease like that. But I have gotten my blood tested and I don't have any disease or like HIV or anything like that. And I'm so blessed to not have anything like that. I never used drug needles or anything like that. I was a teenage girl, but I did share like tattoo needles and piercing needles with like freshman to junior girls. So I did need to go make sure that that also didn't cause any of my health problems or health decline. So that's basically what the ENT said. I went to the ENT and I told him about like how I did the septum ring myself and how I did snort drugs for like 6 months, but it was only a few times. And he said that more than likely something got stuck or like I got sick and my septum ring just like inflammation or something and it got infected, and he thinks that I had, oh my God, he's so big, he like shakes the floor. Oh my God. But he does think that I had some type of staph infection in my nose, which caused my nose to decay. And now I have a hole in my septum that I have for the rest of my life. And I do have a lot of sensitivity. If it does get bigger, I might have to get surgery, but he said that I don't, like right now, I don't have to get surgery. It's not infected or getting bigger. I should be okay. My nose is very weak and it hurts when I touch it, but it's gotten a lot better since he said I had some type of tiny little fissure still. So he gave me like an antibiotic ointment to heal that, and that actually has really helped with the pain. But my nose is not getting worse. I do have to live with a hole in my nose for the rest of my life because of a septum ring and just my own poor life decisions. But I did not have any guidance. I only had one mom, and she just, life is life. So I could have prevented it, but I didn't. And I'm really not angry that I have it. I'm not gonna choose to be angry about something that I cannot fix, cannot afford to fix. And I just move on. I'm just gonna move on. So this is a warning to anyone to go to a professional piercer, check their ratings. Don't do it yourself. Don't use a sewing needle. Don't use a piercing kit off Amazon. And if you are gonna do it, maybe have an adult do it for you and have them wear gloves and use proper piercing equipment, proper jewelry. Just please go to a professional, and if you don't, then like whatever happens, happens, and it is your fault, unfortunately. We are only human. This is the human experience, and we should all share our stories and learn from each other. So don't get a septum ring if you are like addicted to drugs. If you're regularly snorting something up your nose, please go get help for that, but also don't get a septum ring. You don't want your nose to decay and fall off or go septic or start to just completely sink into your face. Your nose can collapse down to your face. Just don't do drugs, but that's not easy to say because we all have our own traumas. So please just go get help with whatever you need help with. Learn from others and know that we are all healing or hurting in our own ways, and you are not alone. Thank you for listening to my story with NSP. I hope you don't have to deal with this, and I hope it's not worse, because mine is pretty mild compared to, like, it's not far back in my nose, it's right at the front, and it's not like a gaping hole. It must have just cleared up on its own whenever it was infected, but that hole was not there for like it definitely wasn't there until I was like 17, so I do think it had something to do with snorting Xanax just being so unhealthy, so tiny, just so unhealthy. I had other infections going on, like those infections on my face. I remember one on my forehead and one right here, and my mom gave me some antibiotic powder that she had got from work because she was a nurse, and I just like mixed it with water and patted it on my face and it went away. So I never knew what those were. I never got it checked out. And my experience at the ENT was very nice. He was very kind, he was well spoken, he explained it very well, but I do hope that there's nothing more going on like autoimmune. That's just to my best abilities, because I am not a doctor or a physician, and I cannot diagnose you with NSP. But if you do think you have it, you should schedule an appointment with an ENT, because I cannot sit here and tell you that you have it. It might be something else. It might be something that is deeper going on with your health, and you should go get it checked by an ENT specialist. Because if you go to a primary care doctor, they're just going to refer you to an ENT, because they do not know everything. No one gets it right. Again, we are all human. But thank you for listening to my story and listening to me ramble over and over again. And I hope I covered everything and like any question anyone would have regarding NSP and my experience with it and like how I got it. I think I covered everything, so thank you for listening. I'm gonna finish recovering from being sick, and I will have a new video coming out soon about my birth story. Even though my son is like almost 2 years old, I still think it's very beautiful, and I do want to share my story, although I will not be posting like a video of my actual birth. That is something that I want to hold sacred to myself and like my family. My grandma has seen it, and I had my mom and my boyfriend's mother and stepmother there, and oh my god, it's starting to thunder really loud. There's just great vibes right now. I just feel emotional because I'm just feeling the most like peace and just getting the best vibes right now. I'm just getting great energy with the candles and the thunder, and just I felt like I'm just really excited to tell my birth story, and I feel like it's very empowering. And just because I'm a young mother doesn't mean that my story isn't just as important and my birth wasn't just as beautiful. So that will be the next video coming out. I've been working on it. Aries, don't open the door. And I'm gonna go draw or work on my new painting that I'm working on. Shh, the baby's asleep. And I'm gonna wait for my son to wake up. Again, thank you for watching and listening to my story, and I hope you can learn from me and my mistakes.